Hey guys, so welcome to Earth Reborn Scenario 2. You can copy the map setup from the scenario booklet, and then I'll just give you what you need to know. So the Salamite default command points for this scenario is 15. Jeff Dealer here on his card gives you a bonus 2 as well, and Jessica Holster gives you a bonus 4, so putting you at 21 total for the opening. Over here we have 8 command points as default for the NORAD. Nick Bolter will give 4 extra, James will give a bonus 2, and Vasquez will also give a bonus 2. So in terms of what's going on, what you're trying to do, so our 3 characters came to this village to visit a priest who had developed a serum that could reverse the effects of the zombie serums the Salamite players have been using to bring back the dead and mutate the living. However, the Salamite players also heard about this priest being there, and so they ambushed our heroes and actually killed the priest. And so now what's happened is that our 3 characters are each in one of these bedrooms and need to make it safely to the chapel. And the reason for that is that the priest managed to put some sort of spell or something on this chapel, and it makes it so that zombies, so Zombie 1, Zombie 2, and Jacksaw, won't be able to enter the chapel, so they'll be safe there. So the NORAD's purpose is to get 2 people safely into the chapel, whereas the Salamite's win condition is to kill any one of our heroes. Great. So in this scenario, the only new things we're going to be doing is interruption and line of sight. So they're both pretty simple. And here we have the first ever token placement. So the NORAD player gets to secretly place the 3 characters, 1 in each room. And he'll go first, and it doesn't matter which one goes where, so I'll try once again to forget who's who. In terms of strategy, I don't know, I guess because Vasquez runs the fastest, maybe she should be the furthest, but anyways. And then in terms of Salamite player placement, they get to place 1 character in the middle here, coming down to the basement, they say. So he's going to have main access, then everyone else needs to be placed on an outdoor piece. They say there's 28 spaces, so any of these exterior spaces that look like grass and trees and stuff, anywhere there. And so I am going to do a bit of strategy for the Salamite player. Jacksaw is hands down the strongest and is also fairly slow, and so I'm actually going to be placing him in the middle here. And again, that would be face down. In terms of the other characters, you can place them on any spaces. I'm just going to, seriously, randomly, let's go 1 here, makes sense. 1 over here. 1 here, and 1 here. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, cool, so all of our pieces are placed, so the next thing you do is flip over all these tokens, which I'll do, and then you'll replace them with their actual characters, which I'll do right now. Okay, so all of the markers were secretly placed and then simultaneously revealed, and each character replaced their tokens with their proper figurines, and then they also had to place them so that the combat knife was at 45 degrees, as always, so that the arcs were clear. Man. Okay. Cool. So, the 2 new mechanics, actually, before I continue. So one of them's line of sight, and just to show you how that works, so we'll use Jessica Holster here as an example. Line of sight is just the range on this outer circle that is orange and red. So if a character passes through there, you can do what's called an interrupt. And we'll get to that in a second. So it doesn't apply to the white area, just the orange and the red. So here she's covering quite a lot. She can see a lot that's happening around her. She's very aware, whereas this zombie, not so much. Right? It's a very small orange area, not a red area at all. So that's line of sight. And then the conditions for interrupting are if a player is activated within your line of sight. So suppose that Nick Bolter was here, and then it's my turn and I choose to activate him. Because he's activated within Jacksaw's line of sight, the Salamite player can choose to perform an interrupt. And you'll see what that means in a moment. Okay, so because he's activated within line of sight, he can interrupt. So that's condition 1. Condition 2, if Nick Bolter's activated from here and he walks, opens the door, then this would be the first time he enters Jacksaw's line of sight. Because of that, Jacksaw can interrupt. So if you're activated within line of sight, you can do an interrupt. If if you walk into line of sight for the first time, there's also an opportunity for an interrupt. The last occasion is if you're adjacent. So if I'm adjacent for the first time to an enemy character, once again there could be an interrupt. So the three conditions: activated in line of sight, the first time you enter line of sight, or if you go adjacent to a character. Cool. So that all involves actually a bidding mechanic that'll show you how it works with this initiative marker. So once again, the initiative is starting with the NORAD side. However, if the Salamite player is desperate to go first, they can choose to bid for initiative. And what that means is they must spend at least one command point, and then up to as many as they have, and the winner of the bid gets the initiative marker. So if the Salamite player says that they're going to duel for the initiative, then they need to bid at least one. They won't do that in this case. They need to bid at least one, though, so they can't full-on bluff and say none and hope that the NORAD player spends some. However, the NORAD player isn't obligated to bid any, so that's how that works. And then obviously if they win the initiative, they would get to go first this round. We won't do that, though, because the Salamite players aren't too concerned with their position in on the board, so they're not too worried about that. So over to the NORAD player, who's trying to get any two of its characters from these bedrooms safely into the chapel. And we'll start off by moving Nick Bolter and see how that goes. Will we? Yes, we will. So Nick Bolter will go first, and I'm looking for one here with... Oh, and then the other thing, I'm sorry. So we were talking about interrupts. So basically on an interrupt, you get to attach an order tile to a character, but you can only use the portions that are red or gold, so you can't use black on interrupts. Just a small thing. So I'm gonna move Nick Bolter, and the reason I tell you that is because I'm gonna use black movement because I don't want to waste my interrupts if I can use them later. So I use this one here, which has 2 movement. Let's spend 2 command points on the movement. Which for Nick Bolter gives me 5 apiece. Oh, sorry. And I'll spend them one at a time. So first off, I'll move 5 just to keep the Salamite player in the dark, so he doesn't know what I plan on doing. So 5 movement for Nick Bolter. So 1, 2, 3, 4 to open the door, and now I'm first time in Jack Saw's line of sight. So I'm within that red and orange arc, so he can see me and there's nothing blocking. So because I entered his line of sight for the first time, the Salamite player can say that they want to interrupt, so they can bid on that, and if they announce that they're looking to interrupt, then they must bid at least 1 command point, and they're going to do this. And so let's say our player isn't really concerned, so he's not going to bid. The Salamite player bids 3, and this is all done secretly. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, reveal. The Salamite player bid 3, the NORAD player bid. And so these 3 command points are spent. We'll just put them over here, and the Salamite player now has the opportunity to activate Jack Saw, as it was him who entered line of sight. So he will activate Jack Saw with this token here, because you can use the reds here, and so we'll do that to give him some movement. So one condition, I know I said activate, this actually doesn't count as activating, so I won't turn the card sideways. He still needs to be activated on my turn to count as one of my engaged characters. So this doesn't count as turning him sideways, that'll have to be done on a separate turn. So I'll spend 1 on this movement, which is red, so I'm allowed to, and that'll give me 3 movement points for Jack Saw. And that'll get me close. 1, 2, 3. So that's all I can do on this turn unless I want to beat open that door, and I don't want to do that. And so that'll be it for Jack Saw's interrupts. So that's considered pausing the game, and now we're back to Nick Bolter's turn. So Nick Bolter had used 4 of his 5 movements, so he still has 1 movement left, and he's going to use that to move here. Now this is the first time that Nick Bolter has been adjacent to Jack Saw. And so the result is that Jack Saw has another opportunity to interrupt. And with his strong attack combat token already attached to his character, he really wants to win this one. So he's going to bid, let's do 5. NORAD character is pretty worried, so he's going to bid 2, just to make sure that the Salamite player, if he wants it, is actually bidding something substantial. On the count of 3 they reveal, the Salamite player wins the bid. So 5 against 3, and all those command points are spent. So once again, we're on pause. The NORAD's turn is on pause, and the Salamite player has bid and won the interrupt for Jacksaw again. Now there's already an order tile that has been attached to Jacksaw during NORAD's turn, and so we can't attach another order tile. So because one's already attached during the interrupt, we can't attach another, and so Jacksaw has to work with what he's got, and he's got quite a lot. So during this interrupt, we're going to spend 3 command points on this combat knife, and it'll work just like regular combat. So Jacksaw will look at the combat, so the dark blue is facing Nick Bolter, and so he's going to get his 4 dice for the first one, and then the extra 2 are striking hard, so he'll get 2 extra ones. So 6 dice. I'll roll those on the table over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so quite a lot, and again, ignore that bullet for now. So a roll of 8. Nick Bolter, even though he's on pause, he still gets the chance to defend himself. So having a look at his character card, he has a default defense of 4, and because he's being attacked at his dark blue, at his strong point, he's going to get to roll 2 dice. So there's only 6 dice with this game, so we have to remember that Jacksaw rolled 8, and we're going to roll 2 dice here for Nick Bolter. 8, and then Nick Bolter gets 1 added to his defensive value of 4, so 5. You always do attacker minus the defender, so 8 minus 5, 3 damage to Nick Bolter. Keeping in mind, if the defender's value was greater than the attacker's, that just simply means no damage. So 3 damage, and that's all Jacksaw can do during this interrupt. He's used up all of his interrupt actions, and so that'll be all he does. So Nick Bolter is once again unpaused and wakes up severely injured, but he still has a lot he can do, and he's going to run away because he doesn't want to be fighting Salamite's strongest character. So we'll attach 1 more command point to movement, and you can only do that with movement, where you put 1 at a time, and the reason I did that was to keep my intentions hidden from the Salamite player. So that's another 5 movement points, and we're going to get out of here. So 1 to open this door, which will flip open, 2 to walk through it. Now I am within the character's sight and all that, and 3, I'm adjacent to him, but this isn't the first time I've been adjacent to him. It's not the first time I've been within his line of sight, so he's not able to interrupt. 2, 3, 4, 5. Jeez, we didn't make it very far. Now I'm actually worried about Jacksaw attacking me again, so I'm going to face my dark blue side towards the side he would most likely attack. Okay, great. And so that's all we can do on this tile, and so that'll be the end of the NORAD player's turn. So now it's over to the Salamite player's turn. Once again, Jacksaw doesn't count as activated, which actually works in the Salamite player's favor, because he can attack Nick Bolter again, and I think that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to attach NORAD tile with a lot of combat and a lot of movement. This one here. And again, I'm still allowed to use the the red and gold on my turn. It's just that you can't use black during an interrupt. And so I'll activate Jacksaw, and I'll spend 1 command point on movement, giving me 3 movement, and we'll see where that gets me. So 1 movement to get through this door, and if you look, I haven't entered anyone's line of sight. So Nick Bolter has this degree, but there's this wall blocking it. 2, I have now officially entered Nick Bolter's line of sight, because corners don't block line of sight. So Nick Bolter can see Jacksaw, and really nervous. The NORAD player is really nervous about what's going to happen, so he does want to get out of there. So he's going to say, interrupt Nick Bolter, and he's going to secretly bid quite a few. He's going to bid 4, hoping to make it out alive.